You are listening to the IU Report with Grant Shouse and Mike Hutsell every week on the Central Indiana Sports Report.
Mike, Wednesday was the first day of fall camp for Indiana football. They're off and running. First practice underway here. You know, a lot of things to be excited about. The turnover of a new team here, and I mean, just starting it off, obviously, with college football starting to get underway is the now tradition of kind of the checkpoints you go through in the preseason, like the start of fall camp, and then, you know, the TV schedule comes out, or, you know, the first coaches poll or AP poll comes out. And right now we've gotten the first coaches poll of the season, and Ohio State obviously comes in at number 1. Indiana comes in at 6th, but Indiana had the second most first place votes and wound up being 6th in the preseason coaches poll. I'm curious your thoughts on that and why that is, you think?
I'm not stunned by it because I think the coaches poll is largely done by lazy people. I don't think it's something that a lot of people put a lot of time into. I think if you would ask me where I thought Indiana was going to slot into, I would have guessed 4 or 5 range coming into the year. Everybody is kind of just okay with Ohio State being the best team in the Big Ten. Oregon is getting a lot of talk with Dante Moore back, and Texas is kind of taking over their traditional spot of being one of the 3 teams that goes into the preseason every year. So you know pretty well who's going to be at the top of this. Indiana, there's still new money. There's still people have come up with every reason in the world why they won the national title last year, and very few times have they landed on them actually being the best team, even though they quite clearly were. So I'm not stunned. 14 first place votes says a lot about what people think about them. But I think I shared it with you, Grant. You know, we saw the range of where people voted what. You know, Indiana had 14 first place votes, 13 fifth place votes, 17 sixth place votes. But then, like, you had 9 people vote them 7th. 3 people voted them 8th. Yeah. They went as low as 14th with thanks Lane Kiffin. I think we all know who that was. So it just kind of tells you people don't pay attention. It's the first one of the year. I think last year we were complaining because Indiana came in the like 20 range in the preseason, and we saw where that landed. So
and they came in right at 20.
Yeah. So they were 20 last year going into the season, and I think we all knew we're way better than the 20th best team. So 6th is fine. I don't think they'll finish 6th. I think they'll end up higher. But again, 3 years ago, are we really ever going to complain about starting the season 6th overall in the coaches poll?
Nope. Not at all. I think that's a great point. And I don't think people are necessarily complaining. I'm not. I mean, kind of like you said, like you hit on a lot of points there. Like, I'm not shocked that they came in at 6. You know, I would have guessed maybe 3rd is probably where I would have guessed there at the start. But 6th, again, like, you're not complaining. Obviously, the SEC hype train, like Georgia's always going to be there. Texas is there, you know, because of Arch Manning and all that crap. Obviously, people are still infatuated with the Southeastern Conference. And right now, I mean, if you've been paying attention to media days like the last few weeks, like I think it was 2 weeks ago, the SEC did their media days. And then last week, the Big Ten did theirs. And obviously, statements get dropped. Stuff gets stirred up in the pot. And kind of the rivalry between the two conferences has never been, I mean, it's never been this big, right? I can't remember it ever being this big of a discussion on whether or not the Big Ten or the SEC is better. Now, obviously, you and I are probably going to sit here and say that the Big Ten is better, but there's a ton of people out there that'll disagree, and it's okay to be wrong, but just know that you supporting that kind of discredits you a lot because of, I think, the way that college football has been here in the last 3 years. Like, you've had 3 Big Ten teams win the last 3 national championships, and I think it's one of those things here where this year is, I think, really open. I think Indiana's capable of going back-to-back. Ohio State's certainly capable of winning it. Oregon is capable. Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, those top six we just mentioned, they are all capable of winning the national championship. And so it'll be interesting to see here. Again, it's August. We're doing this August 5th. We're 1 month away from the first game, and still a lot to learn about this team and a lot that we're going to learn during fall camp.
There's a lot of evidence that just makes it pretty cut and dry that the SEC isn't the dominant conference right now. They want to talk about how they are, and they want to talk about how they're all tired at the end of the year. And I guess they're tired at the beginning of the year when Florida State's beating Alabama by 14 points in the season opener. You know, Alabama went all the way to California to kick a field goal last year in the playoff. I mean, it's a little embarrassing because it's pretty clear that the playing field leveled and the SEC advantages went away, and they don't know how to react to it. They just simply don't know how to react to it. Grant, do understand that the Pac-12 has played for a college football national title more recently than the SEC has, right?
It's kind of unbelievable when you put it in that perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and ironically, the Pac-12 representative that played for the title is now a Big Ten team. So the Big Ten's won 3 in a row. They're coming into this year. That's week 2 game. I think it's week 2. Ohio State, Texas. That is going to be like just an absolute blood feud between these two conferences. We are going to hear about that game all season. And far be it for me that somebody's going to make me root for Ryan Day and that awful Just for Men beard of his, but I guess that's where we are right now.
And it's just awful because we know his aura sucks because I got a flat tire as soon as I entered the state of Ohio.
We all know what happens, and Sig jump-started your car from the parking lot of Memorial Stadium. It's the weirdest thing. But just listening to – and then obviously the Big Ten probably went a little overboard with their media days talking about the SEC, but it was kind of just counterbalancing what the SEC did the week before. All they did was talk about – they haven't even played 9-game schedules yet, and they're talking about how hard it is to play a 9-game schedule. It's ridiculous. And this 9-game – and I don't know what my favorite SEC talking point – the one about them just being tired because of all the teams that they have to play is gotta be my favorite. But Will Stein, kudos to him, the new coach of Kentucky. He kind of went Signetti at his media day when somebody asked, well, how come, what's going to make Kentucky better? And he said, they hired me. So maybe he learned a little thing in the Big Ten from the GOAT as far as media day quotes, Kurt Signetti.
And see, I'd like to make fun of him for that, but when the team we like, their head ball coach dropped just the most unbelievable quotes before even coaching it down, it's kind of hard to like make fun of that. And I was like, well,
it just doesn't seem as ridiculous right now, does it?
I mean, it's hard because it's like we were getting made fun of for that, and look how it turned out. You know,
I mean, it was his version of "I win." Google me, and
yes,
you know, Will Stein. It's going to be interesting for me to watch. He's a local guy. He's a Louisville guy. Played at Louisville, going down to coach at Kentucky. So I'm not here really to talk a lot about Kentucky football, but you know, based on that opening, as like he had his Signetti moment already. Let's see if he becomes the Sig of the SEC. But back to how you can possibly defend the SEC over the Big Ten right now, you just simply can't. And people want to say, well, Michigan cheated. And Ohio State, well, what are you going to say about Ohio State? Ohio State was they were an 8 seed. Well, they ran Tennessee off the damn field. Indiana didn't. They beat Miami in the national championship game. I was like on their home field, mind you. And Miami had knocked off 2 SEC teams on their way to that championship game. So there's no argument that the SEC can rightfully make right now to suggest that they're anything close to the best conference. But as ESPN and the polls are prone to do, they got their 7-8 teams in the top 25 to start the season. So now when Georgia wins in week 8 against perennial number 24 Mizzou. They're going to, well, we just beat another ranked opponent. Because that's what the SEC does. They conflate these middling teams into ranked teams. Tennessee at number 18. Really? You have a freshman quarterback who hasn't played a down. What do you really know? You hired Derek Owings from Indiana's strength staff. That might be the best move that program's made in decades. But, T. Martin ain't walking through that door. I got news for you, Tennessee.
On this subject here, in light of recent events, personally for you, Mike Hutsell, would you rather really try to sit down and have an in-depth conversation with just the biggest SEC guy you've ever met, or sit down and try and have a conversation with a Notre Dame football fan about the state of college football and, as it pertains to the SEC or how it pertains to Notre Dame not being in a conference? And obviously the series with them and Indiana has now been canceled for 2030 and 2031. I'm curious your opinion on that.
Well, I kind of already do. I live in the SEC life in this scenario that you just outlined. I point blank had somebody told me last week that it's a UK guy, played at UK. I don't even give a crap who wins. It's got to be an SEC team this year. It can be Tennessee for all I care.
That's unbelievable to me.
I was like,
that's just unbelievable.
That's all that matters to them is they have to get the conference title back. That's all they care about. They don't care who it is. It could be Lane Kiffin. It does not matter to them. They have to get that title back because it's been 3 whole years since it's happened. Bama ain't close. I can tell you right now, it's going to have to probably come from Texas or Georgia. And if it's not there, it's going to be another long summer of waiting for media day to find out how tired everybody was. But they feel like they have to get it. Now, Notre Dame guy, listen, Grant, you and I both know we all had 1 or 2 friends at least that were Indiana basketball fans and Notre Dame football fans. Well, those guys have suddenly disappeared. They've always been Hoosier fans. So there's a little bit of stupidity in that metric, but Notre Dame fans don't talk. They just watch videos of the Jeremiah Love touchdown run from the playoffs in 24. So they don't really have much to say.
And see, I made a crude comment on my Snapchat story trying to provoke some Irish fans about the series with Indiana and Notre Dame getting canceled. And I was forced to watch the Jeremiah Love 98-yard touchdown run for
Grant. I personally posted it on your Facebook page.
I promise I'll put it in the background in the video here too.
Please do. I mean, you got to feel bad for Notre Dame. Their most famous football player ever was Rudy. We're not even sure he could read.
He was offsides anyways.
He was offsides. He was barely literate. He's a midget. He killed his friend.
From Illinois.
Just a horrible person.
Who's worse, him or Brian Kelly?
They both killed people.
I know.
While so I don't know.
So Indiana and Notre Dame series is canceled for 2030, 2031. Kind of the reason being, I don't think it was necessarily like, obviously the perspective that people want to push being that, Indiana doesn't want to play Notre Dame because they want to schedule a weaker non-conference opponent. I think it was one of those mutual things here where Notre Dame got their series with USC back, and it just was going to interfere with the timing of when these teams were going to play each other. Indiana was going to be playing Notre Dame week 1 of 2030. Well, the series with Notre Dame and USC is week 1 of 2030, and to reschedule that would have been in the middle of the season, probably the middle of the season for Indiana and Notre Dame. And it just makes sense. Indiana is not going to play an out-of-conference opponent in Notre Dame in the middle of October or November. I mean, I think Notre Dame plays 3 Big Ten opponents this year, and all of those are at like the beginning of the season. They play Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Purdue all early on in the season. So just any logical person needs to look at that and be like, okay, yeah, I'm sure Indiana wouldn't want to play Notre Dame in the middle of the season. That just isn't how it works. So I'm curious your take on that, Mike, because obviously people I think are getting it mixed up and getting the information misinterpreted here as Indiana wants to just not play Notre Dame so they can, continue to play Howard.
Well, I think you're obviously right. I mean, Indiana and Notre Dame were scheduled for week 1. Notre Dame comes to Indiana and says, look, we'll still play, but we can't play week 1. Indiana's like, no, we're playing week 1 or we're not playing. And then it became, well, Indiana won't play Notre Dame. It's real easy to, and that's the one thing about Signetti that people are going to attack is he doesn't play anybody in the non-conference. And here we go again. He had a chance to play a big opponent out of conference, and he didn't. I would have loved to have seen that game as the opener in 2030 or whenever it was, but at the same time, Indiana's going to play 9 conference games that year. Indiana is going to have an opportunity, hopefully, to play in the college football playoff again that year. So I'm not ever going to be concerned about Indiana playing quality teams, even if they have to drop Notre Dame in one game in a non-conference schedule 3-4 years from now. Sucks that the game won't take place. I think it was easier to spin it as Indiana ducked them. And to some degree, Indiana kind of did. They didn't want to reschedule. But like you said, it doesn't make sense to reschedule for week 4 or week 5 when you're going to be playing a 9-game conference season. So it didn't work out. That's the pitfalls of trying to schedule 9 years in advance or whenever they signed that series with Notre Dame, however long ago that was, is something can oddly enough come up in a decade. And the USC series needs to happen. It's better for college football if USC and Notre Dame play each other. So let them play.
I mean, and who's to say that Indiana won't go and replace the Notre Dame game with, Tennessee or Georgia or a home and home with like maybe not even a school like a program as big as them, like a Virginia or a Wake Forest or something like that. I mean, I think people are quick to jump the gun and say that Indiana wants to cancel that series because they don't want to play the big boys. Well, who's to say that they won't make that up with another team that is a Power 4 conference opponent? I think that people want to make that narrative that Indiana doesn't play anybody, and you can make that argument this season and 100% going into the year that in their first 3 their only non-conference games, they really don't play anyone. Yeah, North Texas was good last year. They lost their entire roster to Oklahoma State. Howard, that game's going to be a joke. Western Kentucky, who knows how good they are. Last time they played each other, well, no, last time they played each other is in 2023. Indiana won on a last-second field goal. You know where I'm going with this. You can make the argument that their non-conference schedule isn't good this year, and you're probably right. But who's to say that in 2030 why are we even going to be talking about what was going on in 2026 with Indiana's non-conference football schedule?
Well, everybody said Indiana's non-conference schedule last year was garbage, and let's be realistic. It was. I mean, Old Dominion was.
It was the years before too.
A decent Sun Belt team, and Kennesaw was a pretty good whatever conference they're in. I can't even remember at this point. And then Indiana State is CUSA. Indiana State was Indiana State, but none of those games were a challenge. But guess what? Indiana ended up playing 5 ranked top 5 teams last year over the course of their schedule. It did not matter because when you play in a conference the size of the Big Ten with the quality of the teams of the Big Ten, and then if you make the playoff, you're going to play good teams. Okay. You just might not play them in September. And that's what's happened here. It's probably going to happen again this year. Indiana's got some damn good teams on its schedule that will probably be ranked by the time they play them, but it's not going to be one of the first 3 games of the year.
Well, and speaking of football here, this is probably our biggest headline of the podcast, Mike, is it was announced on Tuesday that due to the new ruling out in Colorado that is granted by U.S. District Judge Charlotte Sweeney, that is going to qualify athletes from the high school class of 2022 for a 5th year of eligibility and Stephen Daley is returning to Indiana. And then, of course, we were talking about this off the air. You mentioned to me Kellen Wyatt. It could now be a possibility, or Holden Stays, who was the tight end last year that kind of was in the shadow of Riley Nowakowski, but still played a significant amount. He could also be returning. But as of now, we know that Stephen Daley is back, and that's huge. He led the Big Ten in tackles for loss, and he would have been huge down the stretch in the playoff run last year if he didn't get hurt during the celebration of the Big Ten championship. But last year, 35 tackles, 24 solo, 11 assisted tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, and again, led the conference in tackles for loss. So that is an unbelievable pickup here right as we go into fall camp and the season's right around the corner.
And just seeing the videos today of Stephen Daley out there hitting the sled again for Indiana football, when you didn't think that was ever going to be a sight that you saw again, especially after that freak injury in the Big Ten title game last year. You know, him not being there during the run last year was, you know, it was disheartening because he was such an important guy over the course of the whole season. And for his season to end the way that it did, it's poetic in some ways that he might get a happy ending and get to go out like on top again as a player rather than go out on a cart in the Big Ten title game, driving through the confetti of a game that you won, but you blew your knee out, you tore up your patella, whatever it ended up being, jumping to high five a fan in the crowd. So awesome to see him back and impact. We just talked about it. He doesn't have to be great week 1. He doesn't have to be great week 2. He doesn't have to be great week 3. If he's back by the Northwestern game to open conference season and he's 100%, which he's cleared for everything already, but getting him back in game shape, getting him back on the field for more of an impact snaps, it's kind of, that's why you like on-ramping your season the way Indiana does with those 3 non-conference games, because Indiana can slow build to getting maybe the best defensive player in the conference potentially back on the field 100% going into conference season.
We're talking about Stephen Daley here, and this is this new ruling by Charlotte Sweeney. Shout out Charlotte Sweeney for giving these athletes that were 2022 high school graduates another year of eligibility for a 5th year of eligibility in college sports now. Is Sam Alexis for Indiana basketball is taking advantage of that, and he's going to be back. He played with the team down in Peru in those exhibition games, which Indiana absolutely dominated all of them. He kind of filled in for Simit Yigatoglu, who could not play due to some visa or something going on there. I don't know, but Sam Alexis joined the team down in Peru, and now is back on the roster. They posted the other day he's going to run it back, and so certainly another big pickup here. He's a guy averaged about 9 a game last year, 5 rebounds, 38 blocks. He played in 32 games, started in 23 of them. So this is a huge guy to get back, a starter from last year's team that really, I think, was a fan favorite for a lot of people. I think a lot of people liked watching him play. And so knowing that you're going to have him back on what kind of is starting to look like a really, really good roster going into the season is something that Indiana fans should be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that this team still felt it was a little short on was that front court depth piece. You had Aiden Sherrill that you picked up, but he's more of a 4, and I think they would love to see him stay at that 4 spot. And Simit is a very, very large human to put in the middle, but having watched him in the ACC a lot, he can get foul trouble pretty quick. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we all know in the Big Ten, sometimes you get on the road in the Big Ten, fouls find you. And when you're 7'3", they find you a little bit quicker. So Indiana seemed to be lacking that one piece behind its starters in the front court. And you're not going to pick up a better person for that role, I feel like, than Sam Alexis at this point in the offseason. And like you said, he was kind of a fan favorite last year. It's tough Lamar Wilkerson was everybody's guy last year for very good reason, but I kind of feel like Sam Alexis was maybe their second most consistent guy over the course of the whole season. He's got that pogo stick ability that Simmet doesn't have. Simmet's a different type of player, and Sam can come in and be that more athletic style big man. And you can divide the minutes up a lot more evenly now, keep guys fresh. Just a perfect addition. We talked, I feel like months ago, Grant, about if you could keep one guy from last year. We both said Lamar Wilkerson for obvious reasons, but I feel like we both landed on Sam Alexis being the guy that realistically, if he could come back, we would love to see back. And when he turned up in Peru, it made me think, even though initially there was denial about it, I was like, something has to be in the works here for him to just decide to fly to Peru with the Indiana basketball team after he played in the summer league and hadn't signed a contract with Oklahoma City or whoever he was with. Something had to be in the works. And you talked about the Colorado case, and the NCAA is doing everything they can to fight that. He got named as one of 5 players in a separate case out of Tennessee. So he's got a fallback. Even if the NCAA can shut down this Colorado thing as much as they are trying to, he's got a second injunction out of Tennessee that allows him to play. So it's good news. I think it's going to stick. It's the perfect fit at the perfect time. I think it makes Indiana obviously a better team, and quite frankly, it's a guy that I'm glad to see back because I love to watch him play.
I 100% agree with you there, and I feel like we touched on a lot in this show here tonight. And as the weeks go on here, we get closer to football. Like, we're gonna have more things here. We'll be able to kind of go in depth on who's going to play a lot now, especially with Stephen Daley being in the mix now. Kind of changes some things up with Indiana's depth for football, and then maybe making. I think the first podcast we did last year was like best case and worst case scenarios for Indiana football in 2025. We're probably due for one of those in 2026 here in the next few weeks. So it's
absolutely.
right around the corner. And on the day we're recording this, Wednesday, August the 5th, like, we are exactly 1 month away from the first Indiana football game of the season, which is hard to believe.
And my tickets hit my Apple Wallet today for the games that I've already purchased so far. So I'm stocked up. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Can't believe that it's football season. It still doesn't feel right. Indiana is the defending national champion, Grant. Just say it a few more times, and especially to a Purdue fan. Indiana football is the defending national champion.
Thanks so much to Grant and Mike. Thank you so much for listening. Always appreciate it. Going forward into season 3 in a couple of weeks, we're going to be a lot less formal with our podcast. We just kind of noticed that what day of the week, whether or not there was repetition on the same day of the week every week, didn't make much difference. So we're just going to record when everybody has time. It'll still be pretty much every day, but probably won't be every day. We're also going to have some really cool high school coverage coming up and have some big news on that front as well. Please do us a huge favor. Share this podcast with an IU fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.